My lovely wife, my lovely wife is on. She's at work, working late, and wanted to acknowledge her being on here and supporting us in our efforts in our new association. My dear friends from San Antonio, Texas, the Jacksons, my neighbor, Rocky, two houses down, really a great leader in our community. He leads so many initiatives here in our community. I thank him for being here. Of course, Dr. Paul and soon to be Dr. Ricole and Roman, their son, there in Seattle. And then, of course, all the doctors on here that I graduated with, those who came before us in the program, the trailblazers like Dr. Cruz and Dr. Wilson. Just thank you for being here with us tonight. Ruth, all the way from Jamaica, in the house tonight. Thank God for you as well. So tonight I was tasked with talking about the gift of leadership. Leadership is not only a gift, it brings a certain value. It has a level of importance, and it's very complex. It has a number of moving parts. And I'm reminded of a story when I think about leadership. This young girl went to a wedding, her first wedding, and she was sitting next to her mom in the audience. And she said, "Mom, why is the bride wearing white?" And her mom said, "Well, the bride is wearing white because white represents a happy time. And this is the happiest time of her life." So then the young girl thought about it for a minute, kind of scratched her head and said, "Well, Mom, why is the groom wearing black?" Of course, and that stumped the mother because, of course, black represents something other than what happiness would be. And that's how leadership is in so many different ways. When we answer questions, when we move in a certain direction, there are going to be questions that arise from the vision that we have, the mission that we have, processes that we're trying to put in place in organizations that we're leading. If it's our organization as entrepreneurs and as a leader, man, we have to be thinking about the questions that are going to be asked relevant to just one question. Like the little girl, she was like, "Okay, if the bride has on white, then why does the groom have on black?" And we have to be prepared. Matter of fact, as we lead initiatives, we have to be prepared to share both sides of it. Why the white and why the black? And bring clarity to every situation that we're part of. We are forever growing, developing, and maturing. However, who are we at our foundation? Do we lead with empathy? Do we share insights that we have learned and gained and gleaned over a period of time in an educational, academic situation that we may have learned, a certification that we may have learned? Are we sharing that information with those that we lead to give them insight and to help them to continue to grow and develop? What you do every single day when no one is looking, when no one is around, and we've heard this before, tells us exactly who you are at your foundation, at your core. Rosalind Carter once said, "A leader takes people where they want to go. A great leader takes people where they don't necessarily want to go, but where they need to be or where they ought to go." Ralph Nader once said, "I start with the premise that the function of leadership is to produce more leaders, not more followers." Do we have that mindset that we're trying to develop leaders? We're not trying to develop followers. I've been working on a book for a number of years. It's time to lead, not follow. And it's based on the premise that anyone can be a leader. If in your community, in your neighborhood, there's a lot of trash, there's some things going on in the neighborhood that you don't particularly like or care for, starting an initiative to clean up the community, starting an initiative to say, "You know what, we're going to have a watch time where we're watching our community to see who's coming in and who's going out." That's leadership at its very simplest form. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "You gain strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you stop to look fear in the face. You must do the thing that you think you cannot do." A number of us who have gone through a doctoral program, we have MBAs on here, masters on here. on the call tonight, man, it was a daunting task. It was a lot of research, a lot of writing, a lot of studying. And sometimes we felt that we couldn't get through it. We couldn't make it, but we faced that challenge, got through it. And now here we are on the other side of it. And for those who are thinking about doing it, don't be afraid. As Eleanor Roosevelt said, look that thing in the face and say, you know what, I can do it. And that's what leadership is about. On the agenda tonight, I want to share an icebreaker video. It's about 5 minutes that I want you to take a look at, just kind of putting leadership in its simplest form. We're going to talk about the many faces of leadership, the simplicity of leadership, and leadership lessons for the future. And lastly, we'll talk about a vision for leadership. Some of you may have seen this video before. It's a real popular TED Talk and one that really spoke to me several years ago.
How many of you are completely comfortable with calling your way across the country, and everywhere I ask it, no matter where, there's always a huge portion of the audience that won't put up their hand? And I've come to realize that we have made leadership into something bigger than us. We made it into something beyond us. We made it about changing the world. And we've taken this title of leader and we treat it as if it's something that one day we're going to deserve. But to give it to ourselves right now means a level of arrogance or cockiness that we're not comfortable with. And I worry sometimes that we spend so much time celebrating amazing things that hardly anybody can do, that we've convinced ourselves that those are the only things we're celebrating. And we start to devalue the things that we can do every day. And we start to take moments where we truly are a leader, and we don't let ourselves take credit for it, and we don't let ourselves feel good about it. And I've been lucky enough over the last 10 years to work with some amazing people who have helped me redefine leadership in a way that I think has made me happier. And with my short time today, I just want to share with you the one story that is probably most responsible for that redefinition. I went to a school on a little school called Mount Allison University in Sackville, New Brunswick. And on my last day there, a girl came up to me and she said, "I remember the first time that I met you." And then she told me a story that happened 4 years earlier. She said, "On my day before I started university, I was in the hotel room with my mom and my dad, and I was so scared and so convinced that I couldn't do this, that I wasn't ready for university, that I just burst into tears. And my mom and my dad were amazing. They were like, 'Look, we know you're scared, but let's just go tomorrow. Let's go to the first day. And if at any point you feel as if you can't do this, that's fine. Just tell us, we will take you home. We love you no matter what.'" And she said, so I went the next day and I was standing in line getting ready for registration, and I looked around and I just knew I couldn't do it. I knew I wasn't ready. I knew I had to quit. And she says, I made that decision, and as soon as I made it, there was this incredible feeling of peace that came over me. And I turned to my mom and my dad to tell them that we needed to go home. And just at that moment, you came out of the Student Union building wearing the stupidest hat I have ever seen in my life. It was awesome. And you had a big sign promoting Soiree, which is Students Fighting Cystic Fibrosis, a charity I've worked with for years. And you had a bucket full of lollipops. And you were walking along and you were handing the lollipops out to people in line and talking about Soiree. And all of a sudden, you got to me and you just stopped and you stared. It was creepy. This girl right here knows exactly what I'm talking about. And then you looked at the guy next to me and you smiled and you reached in your bucket, you pulled out a lollipop and you held it out to him. And you said, you need to give a lollipop to the beautiful woman standing next to you. And she said, I have never seen anyone get more embarrassed faster in my life. He turned beet red and he wouldn't even look at me. He just kind of held the lollipop out like this. And I felt so bad for this dude that I took the lollipop. And as soon as I did, you got this incredibly severe look on your face and you looked at my mom and my dad and you said, look at that, look at that. First day away from home and already she's taking candy from a stranger. And she said everybody lost it. 20 feet in every direction, everyone started to howl. And I know this is cheesy and I don't know why I'm telling you this, but in that moment when everyone was laughing, I knew that I shouldn't quit. I knew that I was where I was supposed to be, and I knew that I was home. And I haven't spoken to you once in the 4 years since that day, but I heard that you were leaving. And I had to come up and tell you that you've been an incredibly important person in my life, and I'm gonna miss you. Good luck. And she walks away, and I'm flattened. And she gets about 6 feet away, she turns around and smiles and goes, you should probably know this too. I'm still dating that guy 4 years later. A year and a half after I moved to Toronto, I got an invitation to their wedding. Here's the kicker. I don't remember that. I have no recollection of that moment. And I've searched my memory banks because that is funny and I should remember doing it. And I don't remember it. And that was such an eye-opening, transformative moment for me to think that maybe the biggest impact I'd ever had on anyone's life, a moment that had a woman walk up to a stranger 4 years later and say, "You've been an incredibly important person in my life," was a moment that I didn't even remember. How many of you guys have a lollipop moment, a moment where someone said something or did something that you feel fundamentally made your life better? All right. How many of you have told that person they did it? See, why not? We celebrate birthdays where all you have to do is not die for 365 days. And yet we let people who have made our lives better walk around without knowing it. And every single one of you has been the catalyst for a lollipop moment. You have made someone's life better by something that you said or that you did. And if you think you haven't, think about all the hands that didn't go back up when I asked that question. You're just one of the people who hasn't been told. But it is so scary to think of ourselves as that powerful. It can be frightening to think that we can matter that much to other people. Because as long as we make leadership something bigger than us, as long as we keep leadership something beyond us, as long as we make it about changing the world, we give ourselves an excuse not to expect it every day from ourselves and from each other. Marianne Williamson said, "Our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light and not our darkness that frightens us." And my call to action today is that we need to get over that. We need to get over our define leadership as being about lollipop moments. How many of them we create, how many of them we acknowledge, how many of them we pay forward, and how many of them we say thank you for. Because we've made leadership about changing the world, and there is no world. There's only 6 billion understandings of it. And if you change one person's understanding of it, one person's understanding of what they're capable of, one person's understanding of how much people care about them, one person's understanding of how powerful an agent for change they can be in this world, you've changed the whole thing. And if we can understand leadership like that, I think if we can redefine leadership like that, I think we change everything. And it's a simple idea, but I don't think it's a small one. And I want to thank you all so much for letting me share it with you today.
I thought this video was pretty important to share tonight because of the season that we're in. All of us on this call are so very fortunate, so very blessed. Even though a lot of us on this call, or some of us on this call, may be going through some things that no one knows about, something that we're dealing with very secretively, and no one knows exactly what we're dealing with. We need to pay it forward, play it forward, and make sure we have a lollipop moment where we reach out to each other and we share what we have been fortunate to have and possess, and be able to share those things with the folks around us to create those lollipop moments. Now, the faces of leadership, what type of leadership, or what type of leader should I say, are you? Of course, we're only going to look at 4 faces of leadership tonight. There's so many different phases. Like I said, it's such a complex word, such a complex concept, such a complex theory, philosophy, so on and so forth. But I believe each and every one of us on this call tonight probably falls within one of these particular leadership styles, and probably more than one is evident in our lives. The first one, of course, is transformational leadership. And transformational leaders, they're the ones who think. You can just say it out, come off mute. Can you think of someone who would be a transformational leader? Past, present, it doesn't matter.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Say it again.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Anyone else? Someone like a Steve. Go ahead.
No, I said I contribute Barack Obama.
Barack Obama, yes. How about someone like a Steve Jobs? Literally transformed the way we communicate because of the iPhone and so much of the technology that we experience now, and the technology that's coming out in the future. It derives a lot of its nature from the iPhone, something as simple as a phone. But those are transformational leaders, those who their leadership style helps to transform people's lives. I know Dr. Chauncey can relate to this because he's also a senior pastor of a church. I pastored as a senior pastor for 15 years, was in the pastorate for almost 35 years as an associate, as a youth pastor. And what we did every day was about transforming the lives of people, of course, from a spiritual aspect as a pastor. But as pastors, we wanted to help our people transform their financial life, transform their relationships, their marriages, transform how they led their household, their kids, so on and so forth. So transformational leadership is an important aspect, and we got some transformational leaders on this call. Soon to be Dr. Ricole is a transformational leader. Like I said, she has so many patents that it's unbelievable. The next one is authentic leadership. This type of leadership, it's just someone who's genuine, someone who's real, someone who's just authentic. When they speak, when you're around them, you can sense that they're just who they are, and they lead from that foundation, from that place of just being their authentic self. And that's so important in today's world because of social media. Folks are on social media and they are trying to be someone else. They're portraying a character or a caricature. They're not being their authentic self. So authentic leadership is very important. Can anyone jump in and say who you think is or was, past or present, an authentic leader? Anyone?
My personal leader is that I've read his books. He passed away about 2 years ago. Was John Lewis.
John Lewis. Okay. Anyone else? Definitely authentic leader.
I'd like to add Dr. Miles Monroe, late great Dr. Miles Monroe.
Yes. I'll tell you this. Dr. Miles Monroe is one of the presbyters that ordained me as a pastor teacher. So just a wonderful man of God. His wife, wonderful people of God. So I knew him personally. Yes.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yes, authentic.
Yes, sir.
Yes. The next one is a servant leader. And a number of us on this call attended Regent University, which is a private Christian institution, private Christian university. And with that being said, a number of us are servant leaders. We're probably in ministry in some capacity. We're probably doing some sort of philanthropic work, whether locally, statewide, regional, nationally, or even internationally. So servant leadership was one of the things that was really promoted in our education and our coursework. A servant leader, that's leadership that puts people first, empowers people to grow, followers to grow, and helps them reach their full potential. That's a servant leader. Servant leader wants to see you reach your full potential. He will do she will do anything she can to help you reach your potential. They want to see you grow. They want to empower you to succeed. And they put people first in everything that they do. Can anyone think of someone who you would consider a servant leader?
I think Christ is our best example of that. I think we need to start with him because if we're learning it from him first.
Great point. And he embodies every type of leadership characteristic that we can, or behavior that we can even begin to talk about or think about. Yes. Anyone else?
I would add, just because it's been in the news a lot lately, and I would probably place him in the authentic and servant leadership category. But I think of a coach like Deion Sanders, who, because it's kind of like it is what what you see is what you get.
Yes.
And that's why I would put him as authentic. But I also think about servant leadership for kind of trying to produce young men who are confident in who they are, and unapologetically, again, who they are and willing to speak out, and more interested in just, kind of, again, developing men. So that's in same thing. I mean, with Coach Tomlin in Pittsburgh. So, I mean, people who are, it's sports, but I think of those two as servant leaders.
Yes, absolutely. Very good examples as well. Yes. And my wife, she loves Tom Coughlin. I mean, not Tom Coughlin, the coach up in Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin. She loves Mike Tomlin. How about Mother Teresa, uh, Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi, and of course, Martin Luther King. Malcolm X was a servant leader. He served his community. He represented his community. Anyone else?
Medgar Evers.
Medgar Evers, absolutely. Yes. This is a good one. The next one, really intriguing for me. Adaptive leadership. Adaptive leadership. This leadership style, it helps people face, address, and deal with problems, challenges, and rapid change. Think about that for a minute. I'll give you that definition again. Adaptive leader, this leadership style, it helps people face, address, and deal with problems, challenges, and rapid change. Of course, there's a number of folks that come to mind that we can think about. Barack Obama was mentioned earlier when he came into office. There was some critical challenge that he had to deal with, had to address. He had to cause us as a nation to face some of these issues, some of the problems that we had. And there was a lot of change, rapid change taking place when he first came into office. And of course, there are many others. Can anyone think of some folks that you say, man, that guy or that girl, that lady was an adaptive leader?
We could mention of is it Harriet Tubman?
Harriet Tubman. Wow. Wow. Yes, that's going into the archives there. Definitely. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
From that same era, how about Frederick Douglass?
I was thinking the same thing. Yes. Abraham Lincoln, right?
Absolutely.
Wow. Yes. How about a modern day person like Jeff Bezos? I know to some folks he may be, building the evil empire.
Yeah.
But man, we have to sit here and respect how he's able to see problems on the horizon, see challenges, and really adapt to rapid change. How to change with what people need, what people want, what people desire. So he would be one of those people, if we're talking modern day people, at the top of the list in terms of an adaptive leader. Anyone else? All right, let's talk for a moment about the simplicity of leadership, because sometimes we, like the video I shared, we tend to make leadership this far off thing that very few people can reach or attain. And that's not so. It's not the case. Just taking up a simple cause, as I mentioned earlier, of cleaning up our community if our community is not clean, talking to and mentoring, someone who needs some help, needs some clarity on a particular situation. So simplicity for me is it's very, when it comes to leadership, it's very, very clear. In simple leadership, just promote clarity. Be real intentional, be clear about what it is that you want to do, where you're trying to go. Leave no room for ambiguity. Be thorough as we speak to those that we lead, and create an atmosphere where folks understand that, he's going to be clear, she's going to be clear about where we're going, what we're looking to do. And if we have any questions, we have the freedom to come in and ask those questions and just get the clarity on what we're doing and where we're going. Just think about that for a minute. A number of us have worked in organizations where what we were doing, where we were going was not very clear. It made it difficult for us to achieve our goals for our department or for our particular business unit because the leader or the manager just did not promote an atmosphere of creating clarity. So for me, when we talk about simplifying leadership, just be clear, be very intentional, and as best as you can, leave no room for ambiguity, for guessing, and folks trying to figure out what we're trying to do and where we're trying to go. The next thing would be to empower people, invest in their potential. How many of us have worked in organizations and situations where our people were not empowered? The management, they wanted to be in control of everything, which limits innovation. It limits ideas coming to the table to make the organization more efficient, more effective, more profitable, if you will. But if we empower our people and just invest in their potential, we'll see a difference in the organizations that we work in, that we, business units that we manage, or even our own entrepreneurial ventures. The people that work for us, we have to learn how to empower them to be the best version of themselves. The next thing is we have to build trust. We have to be transparent. I mean, it's critical. It's vital that we have an atmosphere of transparency where people know exactly what our intentions are, what we're looking to do, and where we're trying to go. I just came out of an organization where there was no trust. I mean, from the C-suite all the way down to, the maintenance tech in the organization. No one trusted anyone. It was just a hostile work environment. We weren't getting a lot of the things done that we needed to accomplish. Our goals were not being met. It wasn't very clear in terms of what the goals were. And a big part of it was because from the very top, from the CEO, there was no trust, just untrustworthy organization, untrustworthy people operating in that organization. And the last thing is, use simple language. We don't have to be complex as leaders. We don't have to give the aura that we know everything and that we are the end all be all. No, just use simple language and communicate often with people. The last organization I was in, the CEO came down. I had been there 6 months, had never met her in person, only on a couple of emails. And we had a serious issue that took place in the organization. And the CEO came down, and in the meeting, she called all of the business leaders in. And she asked after the meeting, was this good for the organization? And she asked the question, should we do this again? And if you think we should do this again, how often? And every leader in there was like, please, let's do this, monthly. Some were even saying like, hey, can we do this weekly? Because, we didn't have a lane of communication where we were speaking to each other, making sure we were abreast of all of the things that were going on within the organization. So, in simplicity, when it comes to leadership, a simple leadership is use simple language, communicate often because goals change frequently in this rapidly changing world and environment that we live in. And we should keep our people in the know. Here are a few leadership lessons I'd like to share with the group tonight. Keeping with the idea, keeping language simple and communicating often with folks. I like to use terms like this with teams that I lead. I like telling people I believe in you. It makes a difference. Like we saw in the video, the guy, he gave the lollipop to the guy standing next to the girl, and it literally changed her life. She decided to stay at the school, and the guy that gave her the lollipop, they eventually got married. But that was an example of I believe in you, believe it or not. And that's what she told him before he left. You were such a big part of my life and my development here. I believe in you, and hey, good luck on your future endeavors. I also like telling people that I lead, let's find a solution together. How many of us have been given, some difficult projects, difficult tasks with little to no direction or help or insight into what solution we may have been looking for on that particular project. So for me, I like telling people that I lead, let's find a solution together. Another one is, how can I help? Because a lot of times the folks that we lead, they need our help. They want our help. They desire our help, but we're so busy. We are so focused on so many other things that we're not investing in our people. And we're not asking them, how can we help you? How can I help you reach your goals, complete this project, contribute to the team, et cetera, et cetera. I like telling people your feedback is important. How many of us have had leaders? How many of us, and that's Alexa going off in the background there. How many of us have had leaders that never asked for our feedback, never asked us for our opinion on anything? What they said was the end all be all. This is the direction we're going in. And we're sitting here saying, this is not going to work out. This is not going to go well. Not only are you going to look bad as a leader of this team, but you're going to make all of us look bad. It's going to look like we didn't contribute anything to this team. So for me, I like telling folks, hey, and I have a notepad with me, and I one-on-one, hey, give me your feedback. What do you think about this particular thing? What's your thoughts about this particular aspect of this project? It's important that we let people know that their feedback is important to us. I like telling people, thank you. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for all that you contribute to what we're doing, to our goal, to our mission, and to our vision. I like telling people or asking people, what do you think? What do you, okay, I came out and I said, this is our initiative. What do you think about this initiative? What about the components? Are there any components in the initiative that you think we shouldn't have in here, or they need to be amended? But I like asking them, what do you think about this? And lastly, let's learn from this experience. Let's learn. There's some failures that happen when we're working in teams and groups and units, and there's successes that happen. And we can learn from those successes just as well as we can learn from those failures, if you will. But it's always good to say, let's learn from this experience and let's learn together. This chart that I have set up here, this is just an example, a sample, should you say, that I would recommend to leaders. I recommended this to the leaders of business units of consulting opportunity I had not too long ago. And I told them, think quarterly. You can do it monthly, you can do it weekly, however it works for you and your particular organizations. In tech-driven organizations, this is probably something that happens or needs to happen every week. But just for the illustration of tonight, for instance, the first quarter of 2025, let's be open to continuous learning. And what does that mean? That means, as a leader, I'm actually taking a certificate. I'm going through a certificate training right now. And these are some of the options that you can take as well. Maybe the organization will pay for it. Maybe there's some free learning opportunities. But in the first quarter, we're going to be open to continuous learning. When we have our one-on-ones or our managerial meetings, I'm going to bring some of those ideas to those meetings and say, hey, look, this is what I learned. And did anyone else learn anything? And how can that impact what we do here within the organization? Quarter two, it can just be lead by example. And in quarter two, that may be doing some outreach in the community in which the organization serves. For instance, going and donate blood to Red Cross. One of the chapters in my fraternity a couple of weeks ago had a blood drive with Red Cross down in San Jose. So I went down as a representative from my chapter in Oakland and supported them and helped people get registered and gave blood. I gave blood myself and all those things. And make that a part of the conversation within the organization, just leading by example. And you'll see a transformation begin to take place within your team that you lead, as well as within the organization. Example here for Q3, communicate effectively, concisely, and precisely. So what does that mean? That means, hey, if I send out an email and someone does not understand, it's not very precise, it's not concise, the way I communicated wasn't very effective, everyone is open to call me up on it. Shoot me an email saying, hey, got your email and wasn't clear on a couple things. Could you elaborate a little bit more? And that opens the door for us to be able to communicate that with those we lead. They may send out some sort of memo that wasn't very clear or very concise or even very effective. And it opens the door for us to have those conversations, to communicate effectively, concisely, and precisely. And then in the fourth quarter, get out of the way, encourage your people to innovate. We've had a whole year now. We've gone through Q1, Q2, Q3. Now we're in Q4. Get out of the way of the people that you lead, encourage them to move forward with those ideas and to innovate and to create and to bring about a process of change that the organization becomes more and more effective. I'm almost done here, Dr. Brown. A vision for leadership, unlocking new horizons. I came across this quote, unknown author, but it said the vision for leadership in the 21st century is characterized by a focus on adaptability, collaboration, empathy, and a strong ability to navigate complexity and uncertainty, with leaders who are agile, inclusive, and prioritize continuous learning to guide teams through rapid change and technological disruption while fostering innovation and a positive societal impact. When I came across it, I said that is just a perfect illustration that each leader should have moving forward for their organization and for the teams that they lead. They have to be adaptable. They have to be collaborative. Empathy is so important. Some of us have worked in an organization where there's no level of empathy for people, what they're going through, what they're dealing with. And also having, just that navigational system to be able to maneuver through complex issues that come up and uncertain issues, looking on the horizon for what's new and what's coming. Leaders have to be agile, and we have to figure out how to be inclusive. I know we have an attack now against diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging in organizations, whether it be government, private institutions, public institutions. But man, we have to figure out a way to make sure we keep DEI and B front and center, if you will, in all that we do. And we got to prioritize continuous learning. For those of us who are doctors on this line, we have, dedicated our lives to continual learning, to learning throughout our life, and not allowing that to be the end all be all. Once we got our doctor, we're still taking courses, we're still doing things to continue to learn and expand our knowledge base, if you will. And for those who don't have a doctorate, of course, a number of us are doing some things. My wife has been on me. I'm facilitating courses for Cornell University, and she's just chomping at the bit to be able to take some courses at Cornell University and gain some certifications, which is really important for us as a society moving forward. And that's the end. And if you want to get in touch with me, that's my information there. And of course, I can put this in the chat as well. Thank you all for your patience and for allowing me to share tonight.